have a feeling you might have some good questions and some solutions too to send Rocky's way during the night. So that would be good to get back to him. I want to turn it over now to Derek Blackadder. Derek Blackadder is the national representative with CUPE, that's the Canadian Union of Public Employees, and he's also senior correspondent for labourstart.org in Canada. The CUPE itself is Canada's largest union with 590,000 members across the country. Derek has been playing and working with computer-based communications for unions since the 1980s. Derek writes a column also called Web Work for Our Times. Derek, I wanted to ask you, when it comes to the public service sector, what are we looking at in terms of the conflict with net neutrality?
I think I'd like to, well, the first thing I should probably do is apologize in advance. If I run over the 5-minute limit that we've been given, I just want to say in my own defense that I'm both a trade unionist and a recovering academic. And so it's really not my fault. I think from both the labor movement's perspective and from our perspective at LabourStart, hopefully some of you at least have visited our website or participated in some of our online campaigns. Access to high-quality internet service at a reasonable price without any of the issues that Rocky and Steve have raised in their introductory comments is, well, to put it bluntly, is for us a class issue. Because working class people of restricted perhaps or fixed or limited means, for them and for their families, and particularly for their children, the internet is an indispensable tool now in everything from their day-to-day communications through to their kids' educations. But for unions as institutions or as organizations, this really is a critical juncture for us in terms of our access to the internet or our use of the internet. The labor movement in Canada, I think in many parts of the world, but in particular, I guess, North America and Europe, is now finally, I think, or was finally until very recently, at the point where we could say that we were moving from being on the defensive in the era of globalization or capitalist globalization towards actually taking the offensive. And while I wouldn't characterize myself as one of those medium millenarians who would point to the internet and say that this is the thing that's going to rejuvenate the labor movement globally and turn things around for us and allow us to push back against all those things that have happened since the collapse of the Soviet Union, not to say that we were particularly attached to the Soviet Union, but that is a turning point in a number of respects for us, for all of us. But it was an important tool. It can be an important tool. And in order for it to be effective, it has to be a better tool than it currently is. It needs to be all the things that Steve mentioned in his presentation. And it needs to be that as soon as possible. The labor movement was, in addition, internally, I think, on the verge of finally, and I think you can say that we need to take the responsibility for our tardiness in getting there. But I think as a mass organization, as large, democratic, dispersed organizations, we were finally at the point where we were going to be taking advantage or starting to take advantage of the internet's ability for us to distribute our democracy, for us to make ourselves not only into democratic organizations, but daily democratic organizations, interactive organizations, if I can use the term Web 2.0 organizations. And our ability to do that, we now find is, I think, or in my opinion at least, is being restricted or is being challenged by the stagnation we're seeing in the internet services that are available to any kind of organization, as well as individual workers, individual union members across the country. In addition, for those individual workers, the internet has also started to play a particular role in terms of their ability and willingness to organize themselves, to engage in what sociologists, I think, call self-organization. So beyond the things that you would use the internet in Canada for, the web for, that you would think of as kind of everyday uses, in terms of actually organizing in their workplace, organizing for social change, broadly speaking. Workers were beginning to use the internet and were beginning to use commercial services that were out there, some union-provided services. But this was a huge quantitative leap for Canadian workers in terms of their ability to organize without outside assistance. And we were starting to see within the labor movement, we're starting to see the results of that. We're starting to see, instead of workers essentially sitting there and waiting for a union or somebody to walk through the door, an activist of some kind to walk through the door, and present them with an opportunity to sign on to something that already existed, we saw them being able to use the new technology to actually take control themselves and start the process of organizing without outside assistance. The results of that we were starting to see, and I keep saying we were starting to see because I'm concerned now. I'm more concerned after listening to the first two speakers. This is going to be, I think, a very depressing evening for me. But we were starting to see basically what I think you could say were stronger unions as a result. We were seeing unions in which the technology made it possible for people to take ownership right from the very beginning of what was happening in their workplace and to organize themselves and their co-workers in ways that suited them before they asked for outside assistance. And the result, I think, were unions where people in a workplace felt much more of a sense of ownership over their unions than they might have in the past, because they had started that process and taken it nearly through to completion, which isn't to say the unions didn't have a role to play, but that there was a significant difference in the way some organizing was beginning to happen across Canada. Again, this is at risk, or the continued growth of this kind of self-organization in Canadian workplaces is at risk. And for that reason, I think you will find a number of major unions being led, not by my union, but I should give some credit to the National Union of Public and General Employees, Public and General Employees, and particularly Lynn Bush, at NUPSI's head office in Ottawa. They've been leading the way on this for the Canadian labor movement. It's a significant issue for us. And frankly, if I can speak a bit out of turn here, I think it's a more significant issue than most Canadian unions yet realize, because we haven't yet gone over the edge and made full use of the technology and the capabilities that are there now, let alone the ones that we should be seeing in this country, and hopefully we'll see very soon. I think I had 5 minutes.
That was actually right on 5 minutes. Thanks, Derek.